You know that feeling when you check your bank account and there's money in there, but it still doesn't feel like enough? You're not overspending, you're not reckless, you might even be saving a little, but somehow financial stability still feels like something other people have, like a club you weren't invited to. I want to talk about that feeling today, because I think a lot of us are living in this strange in-between space where we're doing everything we're supposed to do, and yet we still feel like we're one bad month away from everything falling apart. And here's the thing that bothers me most. We've been told that if we just work hard enough, save enough, budget enough, we'll feel secure. But that's not what's happening. So what's going on? Let me tell you what I think is really happening here. We've confused financial stability with financial perfection, and those are two completely different things. Most of the advice you hear about money treats it like a math problem, and on paper it is. You earn this much, you spend this much, you save the rest. Simple, right? But money has never been just about the numbers. It's about how you feel when you wake up in the morning. It's about whether you're scared to check your email because a bill might be there. It's about whether you can say yes to dinner with friends without doing mental math first. Financial stability isn't a number in your bank account, it's a feeling, and that feeling has been deliberately made harder to reach. Here's what I mean. 30 years ago, if you had a stable job and didn't live extravagantly, you could generally expect to afford a home, raise a family, and retire with some dignity. That was the deal. But that deal has quietly been rewritten. Housing costs have exploded, healthcare is unpredictable and expensive, education costs more than ever, wages haven't kept up, and all of this happened slowly enough that we didn't notice the ground shifting under us. So now you're working just as hard as your parents did, maybe harder, and you're further behind. And instead of acknowledging that the system changed, we've internalized it as personal failure. We think we're the problem, that if we were just smarter, more disciplined, better with money, would feel secure. But you're not the problem. The goalposts moved. Let me give you an example that really clicked for me. I was talking to someone recently who works full-time, makes decent money, has no debt, and saves about 10% of her income every month. On paper, she's doing great, but she told me she still feels broke. And when we dug into it, here's what came up. Her rent takes 40% of her income. That alone puts her in a vulnerable position because if anything happens, job loss, medical issue, car trouble, she has no margin. Then there's the creeping cost of everything else. Groceries cost more than they did 2 years ago. Gas is up. Insurance is up. She's not living lavishly, she's just living. And even though she's saving, that 10% doesn't feel like it's building toward anything meaningful. It feels like a drop in an ocean. She's doing everything right, and she still doesn't feel stable. That's not a personal failing. That's a structural reality. And this is where I think the disconnect happens. We've been sold this idea that financial stability is about personal responsibility. And yes, your choices matter, but personal responsibility can't fix a system that's rigged against you. You can't budget your way out of stagnant wages. You can't discipline yourself into affordable housing. You can't save your way out of a healthcare system that bankrupts people. So when you feel like stability is out of reach, it's not because you're failing. It's because the bar keeps getting higher and no one's talking about it. Now, I want to be really clear here. I'm not saying you're helpless. I'm not saying nothing you do matters. What I am saying is that we need to stop pretending this is just about individual effort, because when we do that, we miss the bigger picture. Here's the psychological trap we're in. When you feel financially unstable, your brain goes into survival mode. You start making decisions based on fear, not strategy. You avoid looking at your finances because it's too stressful. You feel guilty for small purchases. You compare yourself to people who seem like they have it all figured out, and you feel worse. And here's the cruel part. That stress actually makes it harder to make good decisions. There's research on this. When you're anxious about money, your cognitive bandwidth shrinks. You're so focused on immediate threats that it's hard to think long-term. So you're stuck in this loop where financial stress prevents you from making the exact decisions that would ease that stress. It's not that you're bad at money, it's that you're making decisions under conditions that no one could thrive in.
So what do we do about this? Because I don't want this to just be a rant about how unfair everything is. I want to talk about what actually helps. First, you have to separate what you can control from what you can't. You cannot control rent prices. You cannot control wage growth in your industry. You cannot control inflation. But you can control how you respond to those things. And more importantly, you can stop blaming yourself for circumstances you didn't create. This is the mindset shift that changed everything for me. I stopped asking, why am I not there yet? And started asking, what does stability actually look like for me right now, given the reality I'm in? Because here's the thing, financial stability doesn't mean you have it all figured out. It doesn't mean you're debt-free, own a home, and have 6 months of expenses saved. For a lot of us, that's not realistic right now. And waiting to feel stable until you hit some perfect milestone means you'll never feel stable. Stability is smaller than you think. It's having enough to cover this month and next month. It's knowing that if something breaks, you have a plan. It's not living in constant panic. That's it. That's the baseline. And you can build that even in an imperfect situation. Let me walk you through what this looks like in practice. Let's say you're living paycheck to paycheck, or close to it. The traditional advice would be to save 6 months of expenses, but if you're barely covering rent, that advice is useless. It's not that it's wrong, it's just not where you are. So instead, you aim smaller. You build a buffer of $500, just $500. That's not going to save you from a layoff, but it will save you from a flat tire ruining your month. It's enough to turn a crisis into an inconvenience, and that psychological shift matters. Because once you know you can handle small emergencies, the anxiety starts to ease. You're not in survival mode anymore. You're in planning mode. And from there, you build. Maybe next it's $1,000, then $2,000. You're not trying to be perfect. You're just trying to create a little breathing room. And that breathing room is what stability actually feels like. The other thing that helps is redefining what success looks like. We've been conditioned to think success is hitting these big milestones, buying a home, maxing out your retirement account, being debt-free, and those are great goals. But if those are the only markers of success, you're going to feel like a failure for a long time. What if success was just making it through the month without overdrafting? What if it was saying no to something you can't afford without spiraling into shame? What if it was having $20 left over at the end of the week and feeling okay about it? Those things matter. They're not glamorous, but they're real, and they're the foundation everything else is built on. Here's what I wish someone had told me earlier. Financial stability is not a destination, it's a practice. It's something you build day by day, decision by decision. And some months you'll do great. Some months you'll barely hang on. That's normal. That's life. But the more you practice, the more resilient you become, not because your circumstances magically improve, but because you learn how to navigate them. You learn what actually matters and what's just noise. You stop comparing yourself to people who started 10 steps ahead. You stop waiting for permission to feel okay. And slowly, almost without noticing, the constant low-grade panic starts to fade. You still have challenges, you still have months where things are tight, but it doesn't feel like the world is ending anymore. It just feels like life. I think the hardest part about all of this is how lonely it feels, because no one talks about this stuff honestly. Everyone's pretending they have it together. Everyone's posting about their wins and hiding their struggles. So you look around and think you're the only one who's scared, but you're not. Most people are one emergency away from financial chaos. Most people are doing the math in their head at the grocery store. Most people feel like they should be further ahead than they are. You're not alone in this, and you're not failing. The system is hard. It's harder than it should be, and you're doing the best you can within it. That's enough. It has to be enough. Because if you spend your whole life waiting to feel like you've made it, you'll miss the small wins along the way. And those small wins are what actually matter.
So here's what I want you to take from this. Financial stability isn't about perfection, it's about resilience. It's about building a life where you can handle what comes at you without falling apart. And you don't need to have it all figured out to start. You just need to take the next step.
and then the next one, and trust that over time it adds up to something real. You're not behind, you're not broken, you're just trying to build a life in a world that makes it harder than it should be, and that's okay. Keep going. You're doing better than you think.